Alex, what do you think about Lululemon?
I just learned that I get 25% off about 10 minutes ago, and it made me like them even more.
You didn't
That's what
know
I think
that?
about. I thought it was 10% off. With any like fitness certification, you show them and you get 10% off. But I was just told that on any non-sale item, it's 25%. So shout out to Coach Alexis for just telling me that.
Dude, fun story about that. I used to coach guys just one-on-one, just write workouts for them during COVID.
Right.
And I used that to get 25% off. Didn't have any like professional certification or didn't work at a gym or anything, but I used it to get 25% off.
Hello, hell. This is our first live confession where Trevor is confessing all of his deepest, darkest sins. I'm just kidding.
There needs to be a book on that. Yeesh.
Yeah, there does.
I think Lulu is I mean, top tier. I don't know a brand that I would prefer from an athletic apparel standpoint other than Lululemon.
I have a lot of Lulu and I'm always satisfied. I'm literally wearing Lululemon joggers right now and they are
Yeah.
comfy.
Yeah, I'm wearing their license to train shorts right now too. And the Holo Health merchandise.
Wait, we have
Listeners,
Holo Health
welcome back.
merchandise?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to tell them about. If you don't stop interrupting me, welcome
Sorry.
back to the podcast. You can get your swag just like this on our website. We've got hoodies and we've got some crew neck sweaters. Hannah likes to rock that, I know. Coming up on the cold season. So get your Holo Health swag. You can go to holohealth.com to pick it up. But Alex, we had one really good, oh, God bless you, sir. We had one really
Excuse me.
good question from our What Do You Think About segment. And that's the first thing that I want to address today. It's a phenomenal question.
Okay.
Where do I start? The
Wait, is
question
that the
was, where do I start?
is that the question? Like, where do I start?
That's it. No context on where do I start ABC or XYZ. So it's up to our interpretation. I think that was probably purposeful from the person who submitted it, but they just wanted to know where I start. So I'll let you start by sharing where they should
Oh
start.
gosh. Here's what's great. We don't
Mm.
believe in cookie cutter approaches to health, Trevor. We are redefining health, and we're not going to say, here's your 1, 2, 3 step plan, and after this, in 30 days, you're going to live a truly healthy life after this purchase of $39.95. Like it's not that. So step one is a conversation of why. Um, where do I start? Um, I mean, I could go a million different ways. Step number one is our identity in Christ. But practically, it could be a simple conversation with a Holo Health coach. Where would you say, Trevor?
That's a
It's
great
just such an
question.
ambiguous, like, I mean, do you want to lose 30 pounds? Okay, let's come to Cumming Strength Fitness. Do you want
Yeah.
to learn about true health? Let's go through the Health is Freedom program. If you want one-on-one coaching, let's hop on a call. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I got to think about it from the lens of like, okay, I'm super green, super new to this health thing, and I see Holos posting stuff. I want to be healthy. Where do I start? So I think before you even get into some of those things, which I think are great responses, Alex, I think like you said, you got to start with, we need to understand the definition. You talk about it. You said, I think you said either
Definition.
definition. They don't know that, bro. You got to
Really
tell a
quick,
story.
we're
You tell it.
recording videos for our online course called the Health is Freedom course. Shout out, it's amazing. And we were recording, and Trevor was doing a video, and instead of we're saying redefine or definition, he said definition and kept talking, and I was like definition, and then he just loses it.
I
So
lost
anytime I
it.
hear the word definition on Trevor, I just have to scream
There's a
definition.
there's a chance that I can find the video and post it on social media eventually, but that's not the point.
So
The point is that
definition.
yes, you have to define the terms, and it's important.
It's contagious. It's contagious.
Oh, dude, you can't.
You
It's
can't make
it's
this up.
important. It's important to understand. It's important to understand the definition of health. That is literally one of the
That's
reasons
good.
we exist, to redefine what health actually is. Because when people say that, they think, got to get in shape,
Gotta lose
and I
weight.
got to get my diet right. Got to
Join the
get my
gym.
diet right. Got to get moving. Neither of those are bad. Those are a part of two parts of a truly healthy life: the inclusiveness of a well-balanced, clean, mostly clean diet and movement. So those are parts of the puzzle, but really you need to understand who God is, and you need to understand who you are in Christ. Those two key pieces are huge, because what
Yes,
happens is there's a mindset shift. Okay. If all that you think health is diet and exercise, then all you're going to pursue is a number on a scale, of a body that you might see on a magazine checking out at the grocery store, or a influencer on social media.
that's good.
And you're gonna always be disappointed, whether you admit that or articulate that or not. And here's what I think is important: is that I would say we both came from a position of just like this. Where
Of
do I
that,
start?
yeah,
And how do we go? So I think what's awesome is this person wants to start. What I would suggest is, man, if you don't know who the Lord is, if you don't know who Jesus is, reach out to us, because we'd love to talk to you about him. Talk to somebody in your life that you know loves Jesus, is a follower of Christ, and start to have those conversations from the lens of practically pursuing health. From that point, it's our 7 habits of health.
yeah,
It's sleep well, eat clean, move often, increase clarity, decrease stress, cultivate community, and embrace purpose. Now, here, hold the phone here. Those are important, but we're not building 7 habits at once. We'd
right,
actually not encourage you to do that at all. I believe, from the place of understanding who God is and who you are in God, the next step, Alex, is going to be the 3 parts of what we call our Holo Challenge, which
yeah,
are going to be building small, sustainable habits around your physical health.
yeah,
Specifically, and they impact other areas, but they're most directly correlated with the physical, the body side of our health, which would be sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, eating one whole, clean, real meal that is based of nutrient-dense foods, lean proteins, fruits, veggies, whole grains, starches, and then 30 minutes of movement a day. I would say that's the starting point. And I'd do that for 6 months
yeah,
and see
and
what
just
happens.
focus on that.
Yeah. What would you say? Would you agree?
100%. I think you hit a home run there. I was kind of thinking a little bit too ambiguous. I like how you took a complex, big thing and made it very simple. Um, because one habit of truly healthy people is the habit not just of learning what health is, but unlearning a poor definition and relearning the new definition, where we
Poor
constantly have to
definition.
be pruning and refining where we're going and what we're believing. Like you said, where do we start? There's a lot of assumptions there. Start means finish. Start means I'm heading this direction. You're saying, hey,
That's a
we
good
need to
point.
make sure that we're going on this direction. Or path A,
Yeah.
I may not even be going down the right path. We need to make sure we clarify and define what path we're even on, which is what we're saying is true health, which is the sole mission of Holo Health. So, I
Right.
mean, you nailed that.
Thanks.
That's all I would say.
But yeah, and I would say don't get overwhelmed with all of the information out there. I think this could be a whole other conversation, but I think there's so much value in learning skills surrounding health related behaviors that allow you to be autonomous. So, for
Yeah,
example,
independent versus dependent. Yeah,
correct, that make you more independent. You figure out how to prime your environment to sleep so that you can get the most quality sleep possible. You understand how to move, how to exercise in any environment. No access to equipment. I'm in a garage with a dumbbell, or I'm at a full-fledged gym. I'm at a hotel gym. I'm in a I'm at my house. I know how to eat at my house. I go out to a restaurant. I know how to eat
right.
nutrient-dense foods at a restaurant. I go to a party. I go to my grandparents. All of these different environments, and the list goes on, right? So I think learning skills that make you more independent in your pursuit of a truly healthy life are super valuable. And the first place to start, to kind of wrap up this question, would be, man, if you don't know Jesus, talk to either us, reach out to us through social media, or the contact us form on our website, or someone that you know that loves
Yeah.
Jesus, And then
Yeah.
second from there is start with the Holo Challenge. I'm actually going to share about that on social media this upcoming week. Just, hey, where do we say start? And what does that look like? So we're going to post and share some material on that and maybe a free kind of PDF. And I love what you said, just to kind of button this up, Alex, is you got to start, right? You can't just go without starting, but there's no finish line.
Right.
And the reason we say that is because you don't stop taking care of your health. It moves with you from season to season throughout your entire life.
Right.
And God calls us to run the race with endurance. And in that specifically, he's talking about running this race of pursuing Christ likeness for our entire time on earth, which includes stewarding what we've been given well, just
Right.
as Jesus did. I don't know if you'd add anything as we close that one out.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I'm sitting here learning from you. That's the beauty of doing this together, that I'm like, yeah, you're refining and reminding me, but I love what you said, and I love what we say here at Whole Health, is that a truly healthy life starts with Jesus.
Yeah.
That if we are missing that, or if we are missing an intimate relationship and our identity solid in Christ, then we're going to have a lot of missing pieces in our health. Not to say that we can't achieve greater levels of health, but we're just going to hit a ceiling at some point, because a lot of the times our motivation to increase levels of health is out of a need that we need to be met from a misplaced identity, which is why true health starts first within, and then our expressions of behaviors, the 7 habits of health, is actually an extension of what God is doing in our hearts, rather than trying to change by confirmation. The world says
Mm.
change by what you do, then it'll eventually change who you are, which there is value to that, but ultimately we come before the cross and say, God, my body is a steward, my body is a temple, and I want to give back what you have given me and be a good steward, kind of like what you just said. And then now my pursuit of health is in the context of health is a means to an end, health is attention to manage, health is stewardship, health is freedom, all these basically correct understandings that we unpack in the True Health program, Trevor, about how our body and our health is contextualized in who we are in Christ, so that we can now love and serve other people better. So that's it.
If you didn't expect to get that good stuff, listener, I mean, gee, come
Man,
on.
and this
What?
is free, Trevor.
Hey, man, we just want to help people. That's all it comes down to. It's on our heart. All right, so we're gonna step away from the "What do you think about" segment. Didn't have a lot of submissions this week. That's
Hey,
okay, listeners.
I
There's
love it
grace.
though. I've been loving these segments.
Yeah, been loving the segments, listeners. If you want your question or topic answered, here's how you do it. Ready? And if you listen on Spotify, you go down below and you click the little submission question thing that one of us has created, not going to say who, and you can enter in that question or topic there. We'll talk about it on the next episode. The second way, YouTube, comment, Instagram, shoot us a DM. That's it. Boom.
Trevor, I was just thinking this while you're talking. We should have a central location on our website too, where it's a continuous. Hey, what do you think about this? Because we're going to start creating more resources in our podcast and stuff, talking about these kind of stuff. So we need like a central location like that as well.
Alex, I will give 2% of my 90 to your 10, and now you can take that page.
Well, that would be 88% then. Where's the rest of the 10%? Because if you give me 2% of 90, there's still 10%
No,
on the
no, I
table.
have 90. I'm giving you 2%, which means now you're at 12%, and I'm at
Oh,
88%.
okay, got it, got it.
It's all
See,
right.
I'm a
How
little
about how
slow.
about them dogs, baby? That education. Hey, that
That's good.
education.
That's good.
Hopefully, by the time the listeners listen to this podcast episode, the dogs have won. We beat Ole Miss, and we've clinched the SEC East, and we've proved we're the number one team in the country. Now we're going to transition to the 3 and 30 from last week. When you're listening to this, listeners, the 3 and 30 that Alex wrote was shared on November 9th, Thursday. If you don't know about the 3 and 30, I don't know how you wouldn't know about the 3 and 30, but it's a newsletter we send weekly that Alex writes, and it is 3 ideas that you can read in 30 seconds that help you pursue a truly healthy life. And Alex said it last week. I thought it was great. Is that he doesn't just write this from a place of I've got it figured out. He's almost writing himself into a better story. He's writing himself to encourage himself, to bring clarity to what health actually is. And he's simply sharing what he is writing and learning with you. So if you want to sign up, you can go to our website and you can sign up for the newsletter there, or stay tuned on social media. We share weekly posts and a link to sign up for that. So, AC, we're going to dive in to
Trevor, as you're sharing your screen,
this
I
one.
would just piggyback as we hop into the first one and talk about how, like we just said, I'm sharing what I am learning, and a lot of times writers write themselves into a better story. Um, that's true of Holo Health in general, not just the 3 and 30 and not just what I write, because we're not coming, me and you and Holo Health and everybody involved, we're not coming from a place of, hey, we have it figured out, do like us, right? We're saying, hey, health is a tension to manage forever. There's never a finish line. And what we want to do is start the conversation on what helps and what doesn't, what has helped us. We want to invite other people into the conversation, say, hey, let's do this together. So we're almost leading from the front and lock arms side by side and saying, hey, we're creating a community of how we can be truly healthy together, and how are we stepping into that more, rather than, hey, we're on a pedestal, we've done this, look at us. Like, yeah, there's no authority figure because we do practice what we preach and walk the walk, but there is no sense of like, look at me as we do this. So I just wanted to clarify.
Big truth. Big truth. We're walking the walk and talking the talk. And we're going to talk about this edition, November 9th. You can see right there. If you don't know, we're sharing the screen from our website. You go to resources, you can click newsletters, and you can actually read all the past newsletters that Alex has published, and my handful of publishings as well. You'll have to find those. It doesn't denote the difference.
It's like a
So,
needle in a haystack.
yeah, it's like a needle. That's a good one. Yeah. Man, I need to go find a needle in a haystack sometime.
I would love to
So,
do that.
November 9th is all about God's interest, facts of protein, and a practical application from 1 Corinthians 13.
Mm.
First point that Alex shared, here it is right here on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, it says God is not interested in just your spiritual life. He's interested in your entire life. Hey, see, what led to this one?
This was sparked as I was editing our True Health Program videos. So context, we have a program, we do videos, and yes, we do not outsource as of this current moment. I
Wait,
was
we don't
doing it.
outsource?
No,
I thought
not
those were
yet.
professionally done.
They are professionally done by us, baby. But
Come
we
on.
just were talking, and we are basically creating a philosophy, theology, methodology of true health, because we want to make it very simple. And then one of the points is true health is holistic. And it's so easy to just silo our spiritual life or silo our relationship with Jesus, that we have quote unquote quiet time where we pray on the car ride home, but then we go out into our day and just don't act any different. Right? We had quiet time, and we prayed a little bit, almost as like a conscious cleanser. It's going to spray a little morality on our hearts and be like, all right, we're good to go. And then we're going to come back into the day where it's like, God doesn't want to just be put in a box. He wants to be invited into what projects you're working on, and what logistical conversation you're having at work, and the random 5-minute conversation I had with a lady at Home Depot yesterday. Like, he wants to be integrated in all of it, body, mind, and soul. He created and gave us this body. He refines our mind, and he connects it with our soul. So it's just easy to think about how God only wants our spiritual life. And when you actually look at the New Testament, your spiritual, I think it's spiritual health or spiritual life, or just what's the word I'm looking for? Spiritual uh whatever. Your spiritual life is nowhere in the Bible. It's just your life. It's just you. Where what culture has done is almost like separated, kind of like the problem we're trying to solve. They separated health. Health is only physical, faith is only spiritual. Relationships are only at home or at work, but then like no, it's all integrated. So that's kind of the purpose behind Holo Health. But God wants all of us, body, mind, and soul. Health is holistic, and it's really the mission of Holo Health.
What I think about when you share that, Alex, is how easy it is for us to just attend and go through the motions. Just thinking about church, like going to church and being a part of a church body is like a checklist, just like you're saying, or waking up and reading some form of devotional is just a checklist. But following Jesus is more than just those moments, or even pursuing him in times of trouble or tribulation. I just think that's great. But we know that because we look at scripture, we look at the invitation for Jesus when he says, "Follow me," like lay down your
Yeah.
nets and follow me.
Yeah.
And when he says lay down your nets, like that's their life, right? Like
Right.
that's their livelihood. That's how they live. That's how they make money. That's how they provide. That impacts everything that they do in their day to day. And he's asking them to lay it down and follow him, which means, hey, everything that you do that provides for you, that makes up who you are, I want you to lay it down and follow me.
Yep.
And I love that you say that. And culture does separate it. You know, I think culture, even I want to be intentional on how I say this. Even some churches in some like parts of the world that do profess and to love Jesus segment our lives with him to just what is going on inside the church wall. And a lot of believers just believe that's if I go to church, like that's enough. And just to be clear, salvation comes by grace through faith in Jesus Christ, professing him as your Lord and Savior and recognizing what he's done. But what he, from that position, and this is why we talk about knowing Jesus and knowing who you are in Jesus.
Right.
When we know Jesus, what he did for you, and we know who now you are made in his image, like that should literally prompt to drop the nets and follow him. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Right.
should be this outward pouring of
Right.
I, I want you in my morning, in the slow morning. I want you to like help me during my workout or during my conversation with my coworker, or help me to be productive throughout my day so that you're honored. Help me in my marriage. Help me when I'm driving home and I'm stuck in traffic and that person cuts me off. Like he doesn't just want the quiet moments. The quiet moments are awesome. He often speaks like in those moments, but he wants all of it. I think that's this is a great point that can be, I mean, just talked about for quite some time.
I do want to clarify, God does have priorities. I mean, he prioritizes the status of our heart and our soul over the physical
Mm-hmm.
nature of our body. But a lot of
Yeah.
times that leads us to believe like, oh, God doesn't care about our bodies and I can do whatever the heck I want with it. Which no, it doesn't. That's not true, because it's a stewardship. It's the same thing with our money. God cares more about the status of my heart and my relationship with him than how much money I have. But he still cares
Yes.
about how much money I have, because I should be a good steward about helping and loving and serving others. Because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 1 Timothy 4:8 says, "For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for this age and the age to come." And
Right.
just like the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Hey, if you've committed lust in your heart, you've committed adultery." Talking about, hey, it's a matter of the heart thing. And he's like, I don't really care about your physical circumstances. So obviously, when you go through the New Testament and Jesus's teachings, there is a priority on his priorities. Like there is a hierarchy, as there should be, which is why we're saying true health starts internally. It starts with our soul, not our
Mm-hmm.
body. But it is still important. So it's not just saying, yes, our workouts are just as important, our X, Y, and Z. No, it's a piece to the puzzle. But first and foremost, step number one to becoming truly healthy is learning who God is, who Christ is. Then number two, like you said, who we are in Christ, our identity. And then three, the correct understanding of health is understanding what true health actually is. So just wanted to clarify that there are priorities, but they're all important.
Yeah. No, that's super spot on. And it's interconnected too, right? Like if I'm not sleeping well, eating clean, moving
Exactly.
often, then I am my mind and my body are not operating in an intentional design that God created, which means I'm operating from a lower capacity, which means my
That's it.
battery's lower.
That's it.
I'm starting from behind. and then I'm waking up trying to spend time with them, but I can't even keep my eyes open or keep my mind clear.
Trevor, we
Or
talk about how health is a means to an end, not just to love and serve other people, but greater levels of health is a means to an end to increase our relationship with Jesus himself. Where
yeah,
we emphasize the giving, serving, loving to other people, but when we're healthier, like you said, our battery's fuller, our cup is fuller, it now improves my relationship with Jesus. Even though
mm-hmm.
Jesus isn't requiring it, we don't live in a legalistic faith, but it is integrated, connected, overlap, all that stuff.
If I asked you, hey, if I told you 3 things you could do that aren't related to your marriage, but if you do them, it'll improve your marriage, would you do it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yes.
It's the same thing. It's
It
the
is,
same thing
yes.
with Jesus. If I
Exactly.
said, hey, I've got 3 things, if you do these 3 things, I guarantee you that your relationship and walk with Jesus would improve.
And you know what's funny?
Would you do them?
The top 3 things that I think about just practically are health, quote unquote, health related things that are not only going to improve my marriage, but improve my relationship with Jesus. When I spend intimate time with Jesus in the morning, I have a quiet silence and solitude. When I consistently work out and when I consistently move throughout the day, when I eat whole, clean, real foods and I feel better, the amount of love I have to give both to Jesus and my family and my spouse improves, which is why we're saying that is what health is. It's a means to an end. It's not the end all be all.
I'm surprised you didn't say sleep. That's the first thing I thought of.
Oh man, that too. That's high up there as
If
well.
you want to have a good quiet time with Jesus, man, get you a good night's sleep.
I was lights
Bingo.
out last night at 8:39.
I watched the Panthers play a little bit and was upset, and went to bed at my normal hour. But anyways, we're brutal. We're gonna go to the next topic that Alex shared about. I'm gonna share the screen again. If you are watching, boom. Number 2, few facts about protein. We all love a good protein. I'm gonna
Protein.
zoom out so that we can see all of this.
Protein? Protein. I get those
Protein,
confused.
not protein. But don't do that. Girls can have protein too. All right, so a few facts about protein. If you're listening, tune in. Here we go. Number 1, we need protein for nearly every metabolic activity because we lose small amounts of amino acids each day. We need to eat enough protein to keep protein turnover healthy. Second point,
Hey,
all
do you want to go?
proteins
Are we
are,
going through all 5, or do you want to just hit really quick one instead of like going back and
yeah,
forth?
that's probably a good idea. Let's do that.
Um,
Let's hit number 1.
and this will be more like lightning round. I don't think we need to like go in depth on all
No,
5
we
of
don't
them.
need to.
But
We
the
don't need to pound on these.
first thing I want to clarify is we need protein for every metabolic activity. That's common language for exercise physiologists, but it's like, what the heck do you mean by metabolic activity? Metabolic or
Mm-hmm.
metabolism is simply just how your body uses energy. So any kind of physical movement is going to require energy, where our initial fuel source is carbohydrates, our long-term fuel source is
Yep.
fats, but protein is used in metabolism, is used when we use energy. So making sure
Correct.
that we are intentional with our protein intake with that, because we lose small amounts of amino acids. That is the essential building block of what proteins are broken down into. Big chains of amino acids make up what's called a protein molecule. We lose each of those because we use them so much. It's not just in our muscles. It's in all hormones. It's actually in every single cell that we have. So it's just making sure that we're eating enough protein for just life and activity.
Bingo. Y'all don't know you're about to get into some nutritional sciences today.
We're in
Number
organic
2.
chem today.
This is, yeah. Oof. I
You ever,
remember when Aaron took organic chemistry.
did you ever take organic chem?
Nah, I took Chem 1 and Chem 2, but because I wasn't a science major, I didn't have to take OChem.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm glad. Number 2, all proteins are broken down into very small peptides
Oh, there
or
we go.
individual amino acids. Some of this protein is used in intestinal cells themselves. The rest goes to the liver for processing.
I mean, that's pretty much just a science sentence.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty straight. It's just the process in which proteins are broken down and where they go from a broken down standpoint.
And the purpose here, what's bolded, if you're just listening, is the rest goes to the liver for processing. Where there is a myth out there, which there is validity, because Can you eat too much protein? Yes. Can it be damaging to your
Yes.
liver? But I think a misconception of protein is eating 1 gram per pound of body weight is going to be damaging, affects your liver. Where I think, for example, point number 3 just shows that people have varying levels of protein tolerance. So just because you're going to eat 150 grams of protein, I was on a coaching call with one of my guys, and he was talking about how, like, hey, we need to prioritize protein with how active, how much exercise. He's a little bit older, so he just needs to make sure he's getting this protein. And he was sharing it with one of his friends who's like, oh my gosh, you're going to damage your liver, damage your liver, damage your liver. And he's like, my liver's fine. All my blood came back fine. And he has actual muscle mass up into his like upper 60s, rather than all of his friends are very limited in their physical activity. So there are misconceptions about protein and liver relationship, but a lot there's a higher tolerance than what most people give or think.
It goes into the factor of the way that maybe you could call it big pharma, big food, or just marketing pushes different aspects of nutrition, mostly the macros, the carbs, the proteins, the fats, how they kind of demonize one. There's different groups of people that demonize carbs, demonize protein, demonize fat, mostly because they're probably trying to push an agenda. They're
Yeah,
trying to push some sort of
that's good.
product or plan or whatever. And so we'll get into this down a little bit later in these points about protein, but there's a meta-analysis study that goes deep into what amount of protein does a person actually need. And for the overwhelming majority of people, they would benefit from getting 0.7 grams per pound of body weight up to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. That 0.7 to 1.2 range, what depends on that goes back to number one, your metabolic activity.
That's good.
What type of movement and exercise you're doing. What are you training for? What does your lifestyle look like? What are your goals? So it comes down to that. So just what Alex said, eating protein will not destroy your liver. Okay. That's not going to happen. You're probably not going to eat enough protein to do that anyway. I'm just going to be honest with you, because it's just like that
True.
old adage of like, oh, I don't want to get bulky. Well,
You're
you're
probably not going
probably
to
not
work
going
out
to
that
get
much.
bulky, man. You're not going to work out that
You ain't
much. I'm
going
going
to
to be
train
honest.
that hard.
Nah. Anyways, number 3, many groups of people, the parentheses says athletes, need more protein to thrive and optimize key metabolic processes such as recovery and repair. Here's what I'll share on this one. Since I'm the more athletic of the two of us, is
And obviously more humble.
I. Hey, you said it, not me.
Get
I'm
out of here.
kidding. Anyways, I think we both kind of fall into the same process or the same execution of this one. But if you exercise consistently and you're lifting weights, part of what happens is your muscles get broken down. And even if you're not lifting weights, if you're running or if you're doing some sort of exercise, what happens is your muscles are breaking down, and proteins, just like Alex was talking about earlier in these 1 and 2 points, are the building blocks for recovery and repairing those muscles that are broken down. And what happens is our body needs that protein post exercise on a daily basis because it's being broken down, it's being torn apart per se, and kind of broken down from a like a just easy understanding lens. And so for us to properly recover and to properly rebuild those muscles, we've got to be feeding our bodies protein to do that. And I actually would almost edit this point and say most people need more protein than they realize to thrive and optimize key
Yeah.
metabolic pro. But this, when I mentioned that range, 0.7 and 1.2, athletes are going to be at the 1 to 1.2 range,
Yeah.
because
Their demand.
they need more protein. There's a higher demand of protein for recovery and repair. It's a good point, Alex.
The only
Number
analogy.
4.
Oh, no, let's just keep
Oh,
going. I mean, oh, okay.
no, say it.
I'll make this really quick. We have a machine here at our gym called the InBody machine that one of its measurements is your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. And there's other machines that will calculate that's simply how many calories your body's going to burn in a 24-hour period. That is baseline. That does not count how many calories you're going to burn in activity, exercise, all that stuff. The general
As if you
recommendation,
woke up and you just lived.
I always say you wake up, you lay in bed and watch Netflix all day and don't move. for example, mine's probably like 2100 calories a day just to maintain my current state, my heart, lungs, eyes, brain, all that
Internal
stuff.
body systems.
Exactly.
Yep.
That does not take into account exercise, steps, movement, physical activity, hiking, all that stuff. That same analogy is with point number 3, where 0.7 to 1.2 is the range depending on your size, your gender, all that stuff. But if you are doing more demand, if you are breaking down your muscles more, you have a hard job, you're training twice a day, that demand is just now going to increase because that's the demand you're getting put on your body. So don't just go off of the baselines. Oh, hey, here's what textbook tells me. You need to be aware of, okay, what am I actually putting my body through? And I might need to adjust accordingly. We might need to go, rather than 0.9, we may need to go to 1.1 gram, which is why a coach can kind of help process and tinker with that a little bit. That's all I was going to say.
Come on. All right, we're going to do these last two and then move to point 3.
Let's go quick.
Number 4, protein helps us feel full longer. And then the parenthesis says, which helps people trying to lose weight. So here's what I would share here, as I absolutely love this point, is what protein does and why it's the most filling from a macronutrient standpoint. So carbs, proteins, fats. It's partially because protein reduces the level of the hunger hormone in your body, which is ghrelin. It also boosts basically some of the peptides in your body that help you feel full. So from those two perspectives, it decreases the hunger hormone and it increases those peptides in your body that help you feel full longer. And why this is valuable for those trying to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, it's a math equation. You need to be eating less than you're burning.
Move more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Eat less. Well, maybe you don't even have to move more. You can just eat less. Okay.
Sure.
But you could move more. It helps the equation. But when you are in a deficit, hunger is natural. You will be hungry at times. To help curb the hunger, eating an adequate amount of protein is going to help you do that, because, again, it goes back to helping you feel fuller longer.
Yep.
Okay. And a little side note, protein is actually the hardest macronutrient for your body to break down, which is actually extra energy that it's burning to break down, which is a couple extra calories. Doesn't necessarily matter from a burning standpoint, but that's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
Number 5, the body thrives from a mixture of protein sources that occur naturally. And the bolded word here is mixture. Alex, hit this one.
I should have bolded naturally as well, because the main point of number 5 is we need to eat more than just chicken and rice. That's it.
Yep.
That there's so many vitamins
and whey protein and
whey
protein
and protein bars. I would say a lot of athletes just do those 3: chicken, protein shakes, protein bars. Where we're saying habit number 2, eat whole, clean, real foods. Whole, clean, real foods has a mixture of naturally occurring food sources, because what we want to prioritize is the micronutrient demand. And if we have a mixture of a lot of different whole, natural, clean food sources, we're going to get that micronutrient demand, which ultimately makes us feel better, which is why we're going to feel different after eating an apple, after eating Cheez-Its. An apple has so many more micronutrients, vitamins, mineral, antioxidants, that stuff, versus Cheez-Its. All of that is processed and refined down to just simple sugars that is just like a pixie stick in your gut, which is why occurring naturally, your chicken, your eggs, your steak, your sushi, your fish, all of these things, if you can have a vast array of that. You don't like sushi?
No, I do. I just think it's hilarious you threw sushi in as a protein source.
I meant to say shrimp, but I said sushi. I guess it has some protein.
Dude, shrimp has a surprisingly low amount of protein.
Anyways, you're gonna feel better, and it's gonna be better for you. That's all we need to say.
Bingo. And I would actually say, before moving on to number 3 from the 3 and 30, is if you are struggling, if your stomach is struggling to digest this, and it's honestly like causing a lot of like bowel struggles, it's probably because there's not enough natural protein sources in your diet. If you're trying to get more protein and you're going straight towards the whey and the protein bars, then, and that's all that there is, that's probably going to upset your digestive system, which leads to just struggles with your bowels and using the bathroom. So I've run into that before and studied about it, and that was exactly why. Let me tell you. And that's the appropriate way to say
Hey,
that.
I think we should
Number
title. I
3.
think we should title the podcast "Struggling with Your Bowels," or listen to Trevor talk about him struggle with his bowels.
That's an excellent podcast episode, and why you're not naming it. The third point is, man, I think you wrote this out of a piggyback of us talking about boundaries, but I could be wrong. It says, where there's a void in communication, negativity, that's bolded, will naturally fill it. That's why truly healthy people believe the best. That's what's bolded. They intentionally fill the void with trust because as believers, it's what love requires of us. And then the section below says, love always trusts, which comes from Paul speaking in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7. So, Alex, I'm sure this is probably a piggyback from stuff you've been thinking about and digesting, or maybe an experience you've had over the last week or so.
So, quick context, I believe in no secrets. I have a lot of notes on my phone, and whenever I read something that I really like, I record it in my notes. This has been something that I've had recorded for years, in a lot of different ways and fashions. I write about it in the book, whatever. Um, but as I was writing the 3 and 30, I was just reading over my notes, and this one popped out to me. And it was not from a specific instance, but it was from almost like the realization when I first learned this, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, is when you go through 1 Corinthians 13, a lot of those make sense. Love is patient. Okay, yep, that makes sense. Love is kind. Yep, that makes sense. I want to be more patient, more kind, that's more loving. But love always trusts. Initially, if you are kind of like digging into it, it's like, wait a minute, why does love always trust? Because I feel like on the they're on the receiving end and I don't get the benefit out of that. Yeah, love is patient, that's easy, love is kind. But I feel like when I love always trust, they are taking advantage of me because they could do X, Y, and Z. They could continue to be late. They can continue not do what they need to do, not fulfill their responsibilities. But I'm just going to trust them. How is that loving? The reason this hit me so hard is because it is not ours to carry, kind of going back to that boundaries conversation, Trevor, that there's
Yep.
always a gap. And science has proven that I believe it's 12 seconds. It's with your amygdala. When there is a gap, your amygdala through the flesh will naturally insert negativity into it. I forget where that study comes from. It was from a book or from like a peer-reviewed journal article. Um, but it's always going to fill with negative. Like, oh, of course she did. She's late. She's lazy. I bet she didn't do that. That is our natural default mode. But truly healthy people pause. They increase clarity. They're able to recognize the internal narrative in their head. And they're like, wait. I bet, I mean, okay, for example, here's a very, very common example in my house. I come home, or Hannah comes home. It's not just Hannah, it's both of us. One of us comes home, the other one is home watching the kids, and the house is dirty. Okay, that's probably very common for most married couples. Immediately, my brain goes towards, well, why isn't the house clean? Why isn't everything picked up? Like, what were they doing? Were they just being lazy? Were they not being responsible? That is the natural default mode. My amygdala is going to force thoughts into my brain, aka the flesh, aka whatever influence you want to call it, whether it's spiritual, demonic, lies, whatever. Truly healthy people have the ability to pause internally and say, you know what? I'm going to believe the best. I'm going to trust them because this is what love requires of us. This is the Jesus expression of how I can love them in this moment. Is I can be like, you know what? I bet it was a crazy day and I probably wouldn't have cleaned it either. Or I bet they were outside playing in the backyard the entire time and didn't get to it. Or I bet they had a legit reason for it because now I'm lending them my strength in that gap instead of holding them to, oh, you didn't do it again. I'm going to believe the best because the
Mm-hmm.
alternative is assuming the worst, and that nothing good ever comes from that. So filling that gap is an intentional choice because that's what love requires of us, and that is a pivotal keystone habit for truly healthy people.
Yeah, I would say you're the first person that exposed me to the phrase "believe the best," and yeah, I think it's been awesome. We early on, listeners, it's a fun fact. We used to meet at a Starbucks, in the middle of between the points in which we both live. We're not going to share where that is for privacy's sake, so you don't go roll Alex's house. But if you want to, reach out to me because I will. And we used to meet at a Starbucks in the middle of the two of us. And I mean, it was early. I think maybe 5:30. I can't remember exactly,
Yeah, it
but
was
we'd meet
early.
for an hour and a half and then bounce and go to work.
Yeah.
But there were times where he was late. There were times where I was late.
Yep.
And I remember us having a conversation about that at one point. And actually had a conversation with somebody at work about that recently. And I think why this is so important, and it comes back to, this is a great way to kind of close out this episode. It comes back to the way that we steward our health is a direct reflection and opportunity to shine the light of Jesus.
Yeah.
And if we are believing the best, which does require effort from us, it requires a dependency on the Spirit and an open-handedness from the Spirit, and ask for strength to be able to believe the best, and then to actually practice doing it, because you're not just going to pray and ask for Spirit, give me the strength to believe the best in other people, and then I'm forever believing the best in other people.
Right.
But asking for that and then practicing that, dude, people are like, dude, how are you not mad at me? It's like, well, I assumed something was going on, man. I'm just glad you're okay. I'm glad you're here. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's 15 minutes late. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, let's just jump on in. And people notice that, man. And it's not for us to be like, Trevor's incredible because he always gives me grace.
Right.
It's so that people come to know Jesus. That is it, man, because he gives me grace and believes the best in me, even when I am not living up to the standards in which he's invited me to pursue. And so, man, it's just so good. And I'll tell you this, as we kind of close out, and you can share any thoughts, piggyback on this.
Tell me this.
I'll tell you this. If you want to be able to believe the best, you need to be sleeping well, eating clean,
was going to say that,
often.
Trevor. You stole my thunder.
Hey, man, sorry. I think the funniest person is, I've heard quotes like, the funniest person is just the dude who said the joke first.
Yeah, literally.
So, anyways, I'm not smarter than you. I just said it first. Is if you have gotten quality sleep, if you're well rested, if you're well nourished, and if you've moved your body, I guarantee you're going to be able to believe the best better than if you had not done those things.
Yes. Why?
Prove me wrong.
Because
right?
your cup is full now. When I am rested and I'm not
scientifically,
yes,
your mind is clear. Okay, your mind is clear. You've moved your body, which is done so much from a hormonal standpoint, but it's also just
get the blood flowing,
stress.
Yes,
it's blood flowing. You're awake. You've done something hard. You've done something for yourself, just like you said. And when you're nourishing your body, your energy levels are appropriate. You don't feel sluggish. You don't feel just kind of blah because you've been, diving into more indulgent foods and nourishment foods. And you're in a place to where you can believe the best better. Now, you can believe the best and not do those things. And I would just say that it requires a lot more purposeful and intentional act than if you're sleeping well and clean, moving often.
Yep, that's it. Your cup is full. When we prioritize the 7 habits of health, our cup is full, which we can pour it out, which ideally is love towards others. And a practical application of love is believing the best.
Listeners, that's a great place to end it. We dove into the 3 and 30, had one submission for the What Do You Think About segment. Again, if you want your topics or questions answered, send them. Scroll back to the start of this podcast to hear how you can do that. You can subscribe on YouTube by clicking that subscribe button. Follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We're sharing shows every single week, podcast episodes, as well as short form videos on YouTube diving into some of these topics. We're just kind of pulling it out and putting it there for you to listen to in a shorter amount of time. The last thing I'll share is that we have a free True Health program coming up starting after Thanksgiving, and it will go 4 weeks. It's in person at Cumming Strength Fitness in Cumming, Georgia. So if you're a listener and you don't live in the great state of Georgia, move down here, and then you can participate in anything that we host. It's a better state than any of the others. We can have that conversation if you want to. But if you want to be a part of that program, it is free, literally free. All we want to do is provide resources to help you redefine health and then pursue, where do we start? Pursue a truly healthy life, just like we talked about at the beginning of this episode. You can find the link to sign up for that on our website. Go to offerings. You'll check out the Browns Bridge True Health Program. Sign up there. The last thing I'll share is we're just grateful for all the listeners, all the Holo Help fans. We do it for you guys. That's literally why we do it. We had a conversation about that recently. We just want to help people pursue God's design of health because we know how impactful it is and the invitation that God has for us. Alex, would you share anything?
That's it, man. The reason why we do what we do is not to make our name great, it's not to make a lot of money, is to help people experience life to the full. Because following Jesus and stewarding our health the way he designed helps more than we even realize. So any way we can help, please let us know. But it's our passion. It's why we wake up at 5:30 in the morning to talk about stuff like this, because we want to help people experience that way of life, which is following Jesus in this modern, crazy, post-Christian world. So we love it.
Amen. Let's go. Thanks for listening. And remember,
You're a legend.
see y'all.